Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Discussing Tabletop. Yes, we were unmuted there for a minute. I forgot to mute us when we went live. So you got to enjoy some pre-show banter. But switching gears from pre-show banter to the actual show, we do have an interesting docket for you today. We're going to talk about what I call, I guess, plague bonuses, which is really the pandemic has caused a number of businesses to offer some very nice things. And we'll talk about what still is for offer, and what are some things that maybe you accidentally missed. There's a few of that too, because there's just been a lot of interesting releases with this entire setup. Then, of course, I do want to talk about Paizo has announced their beginner box for Pathfinder 2nd Edition at a much more rapid pace than they did for Starfinder.
Yay!
Then you can do pre-orders for BESM 4th edition. Star Trek Adventures Delta Quadrant book is out. And finally, there is a RPG box based on the Onward movie that just came out. Done by USA Operate. Yeah.
Hey, they actually picked up something quick.
I know. They call it Unique Role-Playing Experience. So I think it's like one of those semi-out-of-the-box board game things, but we'll dive more into it. So let's start with, of course, the interesting announcements of who's offering what because of, the COVID virus and COVID-19 and what's going on with it.
Yes.
Yeah. So the first thing is Wizards. Wizards is doing two offers. The first one is they're doing a Friday Night Magic at home, which they're encouraging people to get on Arena. They're giving stuff out on Arena. I mean, if you don't have Arena, maybe it's an excuse to get it. I, for one, have been sort of
I haven't played it in a while, but I mean, it is free too, so it's not like you have to buy Arena.
Yeah, and the only thing is you have to earn cards a lot. It's cards that you can't put into physical form, so it's like it's a different version of Magic. You have to understand that. It's like having two different. I don't have a good experience.
It's like the previous iteration, which was Magic Online.
Yes,
but this version you can actually earn cards a lot easier.
Yeah.
In the other one, you really had to buy. This one, at least, you can, slowly earn your own stuff and not have to pay out of pocket if you play a lot.
Granted, it's going to be a completely different experience, but it's a thing that if you want to do some Magic still, you can get into Arena if you haven't already gotten it. They're going to do Challenger decks next on the 27th, next Friday, where there's 4 pre-constructed 2020 Challenger decks. You can jump into challenge others. Then there's an all-access as build any cards in Standard, whether they're in your collection or not. Play others, build more decks, play again, rise and repeat. And then that's on the 3rd of April, and then the 10th is Historic Brawl. So these are the events for Friday Night Magic, like events that they're basically encouraging people to do it.
Yeah, because you really can't get to stores anymore right now.
Yes. And stores will have, reward codes you can get, apparently, for special sleeves in Arena. I personally would have been cards in Arena, but sure. Whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean,
some of the sleeves are really cool, though, because they're animated.
Yeah. I mean...
And it's something you can earn in Arena anyway, but at least it's something and not nothing. Think about it that way.
Yeah. So that's kind of what's being offered under Magic right now. For D&D, they are effectively switching to a more remote play. The basic rules for 5th edition are available for free. It's the 180-page PDF, which I'm pretty sure is this thing. Is it 180 pages? Let's check. I don't know.
I think the player's handbook is bigger than that.
It is bigger than this, but
yeah, it's just the basic rules like you'd get in the starter box.
Yeah, but it's like half of this.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's character creation, how to play the game, 120 spells, tips for dungeon masters. It's free.
It's enough that you can play some sessions with.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have it all, if you don't have the player's handbook or anything.
Yep.
It's basically an online version of the starter set.
Mm-hmm.
Starter box.
And they encourage virtual spaces, Roll20, D&D Beyond. Eventually you've stuck Skype, Discord, and Zoom.
Of course, if you're using Roll20, you already had the basic rules.
Mm-hmm. They recreated their ancient arcane dice roller for all digital dice rolling you need, too.
Yes.
I didn't know I forgot they had a dice roller.
Not that really matters too much, because there's so many free ones out there. And if you're using any of the online sites to play, they normally have that integrated in.
This one is free.
I know, I'm just saying, it doesn't matter that much. They also suggest, if you don't want to use that, you could do the old 1977 method of numbering cards and shuffling and, rolling that way. The
dice roller apparently was last used because its copyright date is 2005. It really was a...
Yeah.
Here you go,
15
folks.
years ago.
So, I mean, Wizards is doing stuff. They're offering some things, but I feel like Wizards is not, going, all out for their offerings. They're being very nice and, putting together some things which are very helpful. Definitely.
Yeah. I think it's a way also they can try to promote D&D while this is happening and say, hey, if you need something to do, you can test this system out.
Yeah. D&D, Magic, they're kind of throwing that out there, definitely. Now, there was something this week that a lot of people probably missed that was really nice from Onyx Path.
Yes, I wish you would have told me about this. I would have actually went and downloaded stuff.
I got all the copies that I could get.
Okay.
Because I learned about this on Wednesday. Now, granted, I have Werewolf 20th Anniversary. I don't... Because it was... Onyx Path was offering a different of their 20th Anniversary line. It was Vampire Dark Ages on Monday, Werewolf on Tuesday, Mage on Wednesday, Changeling on Thursday, and Wraith on Friday.
Yeah, and see, the three that I would have been most interested in is Vampire, Werewolf, and Mage.
Yeah, I got into it on Mage just because the only reason I noticed it is in my Discord, if you're not a member of it, Worm linked it. Yeah, he threw it out there and said, hey, this thing's going on. Otherwise, yeah, I would not have known about this. It's...
Yeah, it's awesome that they did that.
Yeah. Especially because, certain ones of them I thought existed, but I was unsure about the 20th Anniversary, because that's the World of Darkness Changeling, and the Wraith, Wraith the Oblivion, Changeling the Dreaming. Yeah,
I never played Changeling, I never played Wraith, and I never played Geist.
Well, Geist is the Chronicles of Darkness version of it.
Oh.
It's Wraith, the Chronicles of Darkness, so that's what...
I saw that was in there, too. I'm like,
Well, that's their entire blog, because you can't really link direct. I didn't want to link to each of the other 5.
No, I understand.
And that's just, they have 2nd edition now available of that one.
Of course, then there's the even lesser-known ones like Mummy.
Mummy, Demon, and Hunter, I don't think they've done 20th Anniversaries for. And they are all part of that line, technically, but I don't know if they're going to. I think when I inquired about, Hunter or something, it's not as big a one to do, probably, unfortunately.
I just noticed I was more of a floating head.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've read through part of the Wraith book. I have, I think, the original edition book. I don't know if they did more than one edition of Wraith. I just haven't read through all of it, because it's a little confusing. And I've seen one session of a Changeling game that I sat in and watched one time. Or at least part of. So that's my experience with both of those. I'm much better with Mage, Werewolf, and Vampire. I have much more experience with those three.
Yeah, I love Mage, but I would never want to run a Mage game.
Mm-hmm.
It's way too complicated as the DM.
Mage games can suck. Yeah, Vampire
you
easy.
have to have someone who thoroughly knows rules in Mage.
Because people try to abuse it.
Oh, it's such an easy system to try to abuse as a player.
Yeah. And it's up to the storyteller to basically be like, you know what? You're screwed for abusing it. Have some paradox.
Yeah.
Summon a paradox spirit. Things like that.
Because with Mage, there's those set spells that you do whatever you can think to create.
It's just...
And then see what kind of consequences they may be.
And it's based about the number of ranks of spheres you have, what spheres you have, things like that combine to what you can actually use. But yeah, there's no actual technical limit.
It's more imaginative.
It is more imaginative, yeah. But like Vampire, Werewolf, they're very easy to run. Changeling doesn't seem difficult, but again, I've only seen part of one session.
The concept of Changeling is weird.
Yes, it's where again, I think I've talked about this with Worm before, that the two changelings are opposites of each other. The World of Darkness one and Chronicles of Darkness. The World of Darkness is, hey, you're really a changeling in a human's body, that you somehow are there. And the opposite is, hey, you are a human that was kidnapped to the changeling world and replaced as a baby. And you're trying to get back integrated into the normal world again. And there might be someone in your place, kind of thing. So it's the opposites for them, which I thought was really cool that White Wolf did.
Yeah, that is interesting.
That was one of those two things about their two changeling lines that I actually really liked. But it is very interesting, different dynamic. As one is you're like a human that's been in the changeling world, so you've been changed to be more like one of them. And the other is that you are technically a changeling that's been placed into human form almost. And the World of Darkness one, I think, fits a little better with how World of Darkness is, where it's supernatural craziness. So Changeling 20th Anniversary, very interesting. Wraith is always kind of cool. It's where you're a ghost-ish, but you're possessing people and stuff. You've got unfinished business, and you've got to mess around with the living in order to take care of that unfinished business. Whether it's protecting the people you love or getting revenge. But, it's very cool that they got all those offered. And then Steve Jackson Games actually gave something out. Fantasy Trip Melee is a free PDF. They have the print and play of it, basically. This is something that I found was very interesting, because they're it's free, it's print and play. They kind of give an idea of how what you put together with the print and play. They have a little video out on it. I don't think I'm not sure how much of a physical game it had to begin with, for one thing.
Right.
Because they're saying 7 PDFs totaling 35 pages and a single zip file that you get that you can then print and play Fantasy Trip. And granted, they have Wizard and Death Test 1 and 2. Death Test 1 and 2 is solo play. Wizard adds magic, and both are 50% off. And they might... let me check if they are... okay, so all the Fantasy Trips are basically print and play kind of things.
Okay.
I guess. They're not a cheap price for print and play, though. If they're PDFs.
Oh, look who we're talking about.
Yeah, Steve Jackson Games, because it's $7.50.
We love you, Steve Jackson, and we hate you at the same time.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be $7.50. Yeah, and they're saying it's available 50% off starting on the 18th, unless it ended already. I don't know, but Fantasy Trip Melee is free still, if you wanted it. So I don't know. It seems neat that they're doing that. It's a basic combat system. It's a classic game of fantasy combat. Creates characters in a few minutes. Send them into arena. It's an arena battle game. That's it.
Cool.
It's a neat little one that you can print out and probably play with locals in your quarantine location.
Or online.
I mean, they also say like the Death Test 1 and 2, which are single player, are available for $10 for the PDF. I feel like there is an actual box to this though, but like I don't know, because like they show pictures of a box, so I'm very confused. Like if there is a physical version of it or just the PDF version of it. Oh, they got preview download there. Ooh. I don't know. It confuses me. The fantasy trip stuff. You know, I'm just going to say that. It is incredibly confusing to me about how they work with that. But regardless, that's, you know, in existence. And it was at least something that Steve Jackson was offering. Great! So, there's a lot of options for those folks that are quarantined. I mean, I'm technically not quarantined, but, you know, they're just they basically shut down everything that I could possibly go and do outside except going to someone else's house.
Yeah. Same here.
that is like what we have done. I could go pick up stuff. I could go to the grocery store. I could go to a restaurant and pick up some food from there and take it home. Those are options. That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we aren't full quarantine yet. Though apparently, like, I've gotten some stories from, like, whisper down the line from some people of, like, you know, greater quarantines that are possibly in the future. So we'll see.
Also extended. This may go another month.
Yep.
Or two.
Yep.
I mean, heck, you know it's bad when Walmart now closes at 8:30.
Mm-hmm. And the reason they can stay open is groceries, I'm sure.
Yeah. Which I learned that last night when I went to Walmart for my weekly food run, and I'm like, oh, you guys are closing at 8:30. I'm glad I came when I did, because I did not know that.
Yeah. You know, I think that's something that maybe we can address some more at the end of the show, of like, things are getting bad, just figure out what you can do out there. I think we should maybe talk about that for a little bit, but let's hit the rest of our docket for now, because we actually have some things I should have thrown the melee crap up on the screen. Oh well. So Paizo's announced the beginner's box for Pathfinder 2nd Edition that it should be in November 2020. Good for them that it's a lot earlier than frickin' the last one was. I mean, how long ago did we talked about it, I think, last year, how Starfinder took frickin' forever to get there.
Real quick, going back for 1 second, I did look it up on Steve Jackson's site. Yes, there are hard versions of the fantasy trip decks.
Cool.
So, just so you know. Anyway, go ahead. Pazio.
Paizo. Yep.
Paizo. I always say it wrong.
You might be right, is the problem. I always say Paizo, but it could be Pazio. You never know with these things. Because it's like trying to pronounce Modifius. I keep thinking it's Modifius. Is it? I actually didn't ask them directly, how the hell do you pronounce your name? Because you're like Swedish or something. And I do not know Swedish. What?
Modifius.
Modifius. So it's an 80-page a hero's handbook for character generation and stuff, a 96 game master's handbook for pre-made characters, 100 character monster pawns, 4 reference cards, and a complete set of dice. The DM one has an introductory. The Game Master Guide has an introductory adventure, 20 pages of monsters, rules for building your own adventures, and magic items. Great. It's exactly what you want from beginner's box. I don't. Let me check the pricing here. They have it up at all. They don't, as far as I know yet. Like, I get an error when trying to click on the product page. So, we don't know what the pricing is going to be. Normally, it's between 20 and 30, which is not bad, especially if it's 100 character pawns. Like, 30 wouldn't be bad for this. Because Paizo makes really decent pawns. They're these little cardboard cutouts with stands that you can have stands for. They're not bad. They're actually like a thick cardboard piece. I never had a problem with Paizo's previous like monster boxes, like their bestiary boxes, where you could get all the pawns and stuff for them and all the NPC boxes. The cardboard pieces were actually really well done for cardboard, and they offered a lot per box. So
I would assume, considering the Starfinder beginner box was $40, it'd probably be the similar. It'd probably be the similar price point.
I could see that.
That's what the Starfinder. I just looked up what the Starfinder one was, just to see if we could get a comparer, some kind of comparative price. So it's probably going to be around that price point, I would assume, if that's what they did for Starfinder.
Not awful for everything you get, though, I'd say.
No.
So. Sorry, but I'm eating my breakfast. I woke up at like 1:30.
No breakfast for you.
I had to get breakfast, get the show together, and deal with family stuff all before we started. So if I'm
family stuff.
So if I'm a little like off on my scheduling, that's why.
Hence why we started late.
Because I got up at 8 for a little while, then I was like, I could take a small nap. And I took a small nap, and it ended up being like a 3-4 hour nap.
You took a short sleep.
I took a short sleep. I was like, I guess I was more tired than I thought.
Yes. But it happens.
I can see they do link the Starfinder Beginner's box to get you an idea.
Yeah. So that's why I just was like, well, let's see what the...
I'm glad they're doing it.
Other one was.
It's only a year out, which is good, I think.
Oh, I agree. Like I think the beginner boxes. Honestly, I would like to see companies who are going to do beginner boxes do them with the release.
Yes,
because that would make the most sense if you're trying to bring people in.
Yes,
it's here's a beginner box so you can try the system out easily.
I highly agree. That's the thing, is like you never see them until much later on, and I think that's a problem with a lot of these systems, is that they don't have the introductory until afterwards, when like the hype of release is actually really important, which I don't think a lot of the RPG companies think about too, because it's like, hey, Pathfinder's got their new 2nd edition rules coming out, or D&D's got the new 5th edition, which it sounds like it's a lot, but like if anybody familiar with an RPG in general knows that the rule sets might don't actually stay the same. Like, if I would talk to some video game person that's only played Final Fantasies, like, what can you tell me about the Final Fantasy rules? And I'm like, the games play each differently. That's the point. And that's a point that's like a very easy thing to hammer home for most people that play an played an RPG in any kind of medium. That the rules will be different for the thing, and that's what you can basically say, like, hey, a new set of rules is coming out. It's the 5th edition of D&D. It's a big hype one. They've made it a lot better. Or the new Pathfinder one. They did all this cool stuff for it. It might get people, when they hear about it, interested, and you don't get that crowd. You get the beginner boxes are more for the people that are like floating in later on at this point, it almost seems like. Rather than initial cloud, which there's the initial crowd, yes, you have the people that like more like us, who are like, oh, we did Pathfinder before, we might be interested in trying this one out. And then those that are like, filtering in. It's just, okay, that was the same thing I was saying for a second there. English!
No, but I think if you do the beginner box right with first release, you're going to have the hype of the people who you're already part of your demographic that are like, okay, we're already playing the other system, we're going to check this out, and you have the then buzz on top of it with people who might not have played your system before going, oh, there's a new one, and they have some they have a beginner box where I can just get all the base stuff I need. Why don't we check it out?
Yeah,
instead of a year after when the hype's already died down.
Yep, very, very, very true. It's they're even if it's not quite right away, I would have still had it a lot closer with the hype. I would have had it within the first couple of months. I feel that would have been the most appropriate.
I honestly almost would say offer the beginner box right off the bat, even if you don't have, even if you have to, if that means postponing the main books like a month or so, because people can at least get a sample of what the game's like and then go, oh yeah, I want to get the whole thing.
Well, that's why I do like Modifius puts out their quick start rules, where anybody can download them for free, quickly check out how this game works, things like that. And that's a very good way of doing it, that they can be like, oh, this is what I'm getting interested in.
Yeah. I mean, Paizo did had the beta tests and everything that they had the rules out for, that you could try it out.
But I feel like when you talk beta test, people are like, they're going to take a step back, especially new people to it. And as in our chat here, Fallen has said, this is definitely for Fallen, who's never played 2nd edition or Pathfinder in general. This is a great way of introducing yourself to this. It's just, again, like, where is the same hype level as you had when 2nd edition first came out in comparison to a year onward? This might be for, and because it is more of a physical thing, this is for a physical group most of the time. Granted, I'm sure you could get a PDF version of it, which is sort of like,
it's an extra $10 to get the PDF on top of it. Well, at least it was for Starfinder,
which isn't bad. But then, like, it's the difference between needing just the PDF and the physical copy. Sometimes, I would if I was gonna run this stuff just with some really beginners, because granted, these adventures are really great for beginners. I can't deny that. The adventures that they put into these beginner boxes are great for very early on people, and might be a very good play for DM or GM that hasn't had as much experience with beginner people. Like, it's easy to integrate one person, but if you have a total group of newbies, you definitely want to try something a little different. But if you're not physically with people, that's the problem. This is definitely a physical with people product now. And there is that, I know that's a problem that can kind of exist with this digital online world, and maybe that's why it's pushed it off, and I understand that's probably their reasoning for pushing it off. But again, it's maybe not the best reason, because it's that still trade-off. And if
you still offer the PDF.
Because there is a lot
box too.
Yeah, there is a lot in the starter boxes on the PDF side still. Even if you don't get the pawns, the images for the pawns could be not bad for using.
Well, with that, what you do is you try to partner with the big online streaming sites like Roll20, and you give out if you buy it through Roll20, you get the the digital pawns.
Yeah.
So, you could still make it almost, the bang for the buck it is.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's just you have to do it, in certain ways.
Well, even the digital, the Starfinder or the Pathfinder, the pawns in there. Even if you just give the images of them, individually, I could see going to some place like Roll20 and putting them up there. You can put up your own pawns.
You can add your own images in. So, you still give pictures of what the pawns look like, and then you can still use them.
Yeah, so there is still that advantage with that entire case. So, I mean, depending on how they are put into the PDF, though, is the only thing I'm worried about, is how they're organized, if they're organized well enough. But it is only $9 for, the Starfinder PDF, so it's not bad price. And I assume it's because it has a lot less, the pawns and the dice are the big things in the physical beginner's box that are actually worth money, probably. That's the thing.
And it costs more. And they cost more to make.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. The printing, and then you have 100 pawns, and then you've got a set of dice, and those things. That's what gets it up to that 40, definitely. Yeah. But no, I can understand how all these things add together to the different prices, and again, just the PDF for $10, if they had it out already for beginner people, it still would have been great. It's just that they're a year on. Actually, more than a year on, because it was released officially at Gen Con last year.
Yeah.
And they're finally getting it out. The Starfinder one, wasn't it 2 years at least before they got their beginner stuff? Yeah. They have been dropping the ball on the beginner stuff. And I feel like the beginner stuff is very important for new people. You can't just rest on the laurels of the people that have been introduced through other stuff. Yes, there's the D&D people that might want to try out Pathfinder. There's the Pathfinder people that might want to try out Starfinder. There's all these connections. Old Pathfinder trying out new Pathfinder. A lot of these things like this that's relying on a group of people that you already kind of have, rather than a group of new people. Which D&D is very good at getting new people in general, just because they've done a lot of stuff for that. And the fact is that this book is a very easy book to pick up and use. You know, the fact is it's a very good book, very simple book, I have to say, for picking up and use. But...
And the thing was, there was a lot of hype when Pathfinder announced they were doing a second edition, because, you know, there was a long time discussion that they were never going to do another edition. And they're just going to keep adding.
Yeah, and then we got their second edition, and they got their playtest with it, which was a big thing too. They had that playtest for a long period of time. They used that to like refine the system, definitely. As like when we tried the old playtest rules, and when we finally got the physical books out, the rules were completely different.
Yeah,
I remember that. That we had.
I remember when we had to convert everything. It's like, oh wait, we had to change our characters.
Yeah, which I mean, like,
it wasn't horrible. It was just kind of have to rebuild this.
Which my second edition story has taken on more of an epic hype than I originally planned for. You know, I've added in a little bit more to the storyline as to why things are going on, and it made it more epic sounding, so, you know.
It's been an interesting journey so far. Mm-hmm. It's also interesting because of our one friend who is learning how to be in society.
Yeah. But we'll talk about that at our Beacon Tabletop also. That'll be another thing. Let's move on, though, to... I'm not going to throw an image out for this one. This is just easy. BESM. The 4th edition, if you were a backer, you've got the PDFs already. The physical books haven't arrived yet, just because I think they're getting shipped in. There were some shipping things that were going on that like have delayed it, especially with trying to get stuff in from China, I guess now, where a lot of the printing is going on originally. Because a lot of printing goes on in I think China or Europe. Either or. Both are like you have shipping issues.
Wow, their core rule book is a little hefty on price for... But, I mean, I know their core rule book's rather large, too.
It's a $60 core rule book.
Yeah.
$60 is not too bad, because I think the Pathfinder core was $60. I mean, this thing, which is smaller, was $50.
Yeah.
So...
normally they're around like 40, 50. That's why I'm like, that's a little on the higher side. But I mean, it's not horrible.
This giant behemoth was $60. So, if it's a big book, which I actually don't really know, because I only have a PDF, and that's kind of like...
It looks like it's a big book.
Yeah.
Just from the image, it looks rather thick, especially compared to the BESM Naked stripped down one for $35.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, is they have their, like, in-depth big core book, and then they have the Naked one, which is supposed to be, like, a stripped-down rule set that is much easier... like just a little simpler thing for people to do, which is.
And then they also have their deluxe edition, which is $100.
Yeah, I mean it's like a nicely bound book. I'm sure it's got like the cover.
It's probably a leather cover.
Leather back cover, yeah, really nice binding and stuff. I mean, like, I understand those. Those are neat, but I only have one deluxe, and I got it by accident.
It's a leatherette cover.
Yeah, this is the same as this one here.
Yeah. Which,
I don't know, this one probably should have been a lot more expensive, but I got it for half price because I was at it, I think was it PAX Unplugged? It was Unplugged.
Yes.
And they overstocked this, and they weren't planning on bringing anything back. So they're like, we have to sell these, half price. One company's mistake was my game. But normally I wouldn't get those. I probably wouldn't have gotten the bestiary, honestly speaking, if that hadn't occurred. Honestly speaking. For Pathfinder 2nd edition. When they were like, it's like 35 instead of its normal, like, because normally I think the book on its own would have probably been 50 too. 50 on its own. So it's like, it's $50 off what the base bestiary was. But anyway, yeah.
It looks like the deluxe edition's not going to be standardly offered. It looks like you can do
limited edition.
Yeah, it looks like you can do a pre-order from it, but the rulebook will not be printed in mass.
No, yeah, I think it's because like they printed a certain order with the deluxe ones, probably because of the Kickstarter, and this is probably the editions that they have left over from that order. So it's like we have X left over from the deluxe from our like, because they probably have like a standard amount you can order, and probably they ordered enough for the Kickstarter, and then they went over by a certain amount to get like what was ever like the best price for the printing.
I want to throw a shout out here though with Japanime Games, because if you go to their order page, they're donating 50% of their sales to help game stores around the world who have had to close during the coronavirus pandemic.
Japanime Games is actually a really good company to work with when you can. I mean, we got to test one of their games. Granted, like, their testing system for getting, like, test copies as being, like, I would call them a mid-tier company is very hard to get into. Like, I got lucky for the first thing when we got Alismatic Heroes, which was a great one. If you missed it, I will not link the episode where we reviewed it, but it was one last year, I think, it was a while ago, that we got a copy.
I think it was last year.
Yeah, that we got a copy of the game and we got to play test it,
and it was really good.
Oh, it was very good, and like I've communicated with them before and stuff, and I should communicate with them a bit some more again. It's been a little while since I've messaged them, but I'm just thinking of that now. But they're a great company. I've communicated a little bit with their partner people from BESM. I think it's Dijkstra or something, or I'm trying to remember and I'm forgetting because I forget a lot of stuff. They don't say their partner company for it, but I know that their partner store. Well, they're the partner company that's working with them for this one. And free shipping if you're good over $75 worth of stuff.
Yeah,
which is
but
nice.
I wanted to shout that out that they're helping support game stores, which I think is really awesome.
God, yes, they're really good in that way. So I mean, like they're a very good company. And I'm very glad to see what that we can see the pre-orders up now. I don't know the exact timing. Do they give a date right now? Because that would actually
mid-2020 it said.
Because I'm guessing if it's mid-2020, then it's probably going to be like, oh, I'll get the book slightly before other people get the book. Because when I did the Kickstarter, I should be getting both the normal and the BESM naked. I went for the full package support. Just because sometimes you want to play with like simpler rules, and sometimes you want to play with the more complex rules, depending on the situation. And that actually might work better. That's why I was thinking it might work better for different animes too. That some animes, it might just be easier to keep simple rules, especially if it's like, you're normal people. Why do you need complex rules? You're normal people on a normal kind of adventure kind of thing. Or if you're like crazy, ridiculous characters in like some kind of mecha anime, you probably want the more adapt rules. But,
especially if you want to have heat-seeking vampire teeth.
That was just weird, and I said no to it. There's a reason I said no, and I'm like, nope, you've gone too far.
I would put heat-seeking on my vampire teeth.
I'm like, no. No seeking on your vampire teeth. They don't fire out of your mouth, and then you somehow drink with veins. I think we said, yes, so you could drink blood with them.
Veins would be attached to them, and
vampire, use teeth punch.
Oh god, it was hilarious. It was a hilarious idea.
There was a lot of hilarious ideas in that game. Yes. And even when we restarted it briefly, it was hilarious ideas. It just didn't work because it had been so long since we played it before, unfortunately. But yeah, let's keep going because there's a few remaining topics to talk about. Only a few. So
Star Trek.
This is one that we were actually anticipating because we knew it was coming. We didn't have the exact dates for it coming, but we knew it was coming out relatively soon. It's the Star Trek Delta Quadrant adventure book from Modiphius.
Go Borg.
Well, I assume, yes, you have more Borg stuff because there's a big Borg presence. But they already had like basic Borg rules and stuff in the normal
more
book.
Borg. I mean, I don't care about Kazon.
Yeah. So detailed information about the post-war Federation SS Voyagers monumental mission, bringing the timeline up to 2379. So that's the thing about this first, is it's telling us a little bit about the time after the Dominion War. Then they've got Kazon, Vadian, Malon, Voth, more stuff on the board. Collective. A dozen
Talaxians.
that's a dozen new species. The Talaxians you can play, Okampa, Anakari, a liberated Borg. They've got rules, because they had rules for just making a Borg character, but a liberated Borg sounds like an interesting sort of character to play too. You know,
you can be Hugh from Next Generation,
or from the Picard series, which I have to catch up on. Which I watched a few episodes of.
I've only seen the first episode. I am waiting till the season's over, and then I will
go through all of it.
I will sign up for like a month and binge, and then
yeah, I'm like 5 episodes in, so there's been like another like 3 or 4 with my week at PAX East, like kind of like threw my schedule off kilter for watching.
Well, I guess Liberated Borg also could be 7 or 9.
I think that's really where it comes from, but yes, there's others too. Collection of starships, which are always cool. More Borg vessels. Running missions and continuing voyages in Delta Quadrant and Adventure Seeds. There's a lot of cool stuff in this book, definitely. I mean, I like all their Quadrant books. Yeah. I feel like I do want to get all their Quadrant books just for the Star Trek Adventures. If I would play more Star Trek Adventures, like, it would be an excuse to, which I can...
Please.
I do want to run something here, but, like, my original idea that I was going to run in here, I don't think would work as well as I want. So, like, I have to figure out what kind of storyline I'd want to do, and that's the only problem I think I have to face in running one. Because, like,
I just want to play more Star Trek.
Well, it's like, do you want a ongoing story similar to some of the more modern Star Trek ones, but then you can also get sort of an or like Adventure of the Week, which again, like, Voyager was in between those two. You know,
they had an ongoing story, but there was still Adventure of the Week.
Yeah. Or do you want to be more like pure ongoing story, which I think Picard is very much so an ongoing story one, you know, which is not bad. You know, it is definitely telling a very good tale over ongoing story, and like how they can do it nowadays is very good. On the other hand, then you have like your just Next Generation, which is pure Adventure of the Week.
I mean, I wouldn't mind actually doing a Voyager-esque thing, but a little more realistic. That, you know, hey, our ship isn't perfect after every major battle.
Yeah, they can always return it basically to just good enough.
It's like, hey, our ship got horribly damaged. Next episode, everything's fine again.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how? How did you fix it back to perfection again?
Mm-hmm.
That was my only main complaint really with Voyager, was there needed to be more dire circumstances.
I highly agree.
And less Kazon, because they were kind of ridiculous, and they had rocks in their hair.
They did.
It looked like they washed their hair in cement.
And there were plenty of actual like races that were pretty decent for like going against.
Oh yeah.
Others that were weird, but
oh god, my brain's dying on names now.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that had to take organs.
The Vidians.
Vidians, yes. The Vidians were an excellent race.
Mm-hmm. They were an interesting race because they weren't really technically bad. It's just they were so desperate because of a plague that degenerated their bodies that they were willing to do anything to like fight it. It was very interesting. And even their version of like the Herodians, the like they're like predator type characters, the hunters, they weren't bad.
No, and they actually started kind of getting along with them.
Yeah.
When they offered them my brain is off today. When they offered them holodeck technology. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And they're like, "Oh, we can actually focus on not having to travel everywhere and actually build a society and just do the hunts virtually."
Mm-hmm. They weren't good at it, but they tried.
I mean, they took over Voyager and turned it into a giant holodeck at one point.
And then they built their own one, and I think that was like the last season.
The holograms. Yeah, the holograms revolted.
Yeah, man, they had a lot of problems with that entire idea. But no, there was a lot of interesting Voyager. Voyager is one of those series I do like a lot, but it's also got like its ups are very up, its downs are very down.
Yeah,
that's the best way to describe it. Like they
didn't go all in with it. It was the problem.
Yeah,
when they had ideas, they didn't go all in with them, and then they kind of came off a little like, well, that was a really good idea, just a bad follow through.
Yeah, and the thing is, some of them, they didn't need a lot of follow-through to have the idea very good, and I think those were the very, very good episodes. It's sort of like, you don't have to do a lot to have this idea be very good.
I love the macrovirus one.
The macrovirus one is awesome. Yeah, the macrovirus one was very cool. There's like a list of episodes that are like probably, but I could say like we're on the top tier of the normal episodes that people talk about. Yeah. But also then like when I rewatched it in the last year, those bad ones that you could see in your lists.
Oh god, Warp 10 barrier.
Yeah, that was just really bad. There's a reason why it's like on the top 10 like most awful Star Trek episodes ever. Ever. All Star Trek episodes, you know?
I mean, when you have the captain and Tom Paris hyper evolve, quote unquote, into a weird, seemingly lower species, and then also leave those children they created, which also made the question of how long were they on that planet before they got found that she was able to give birth to those things. Yeah. And then no, we're just gonna leave them there.
Yeah.
Hello, ecosystem. You have a new thing in your.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of having like rewatched pretty much all the Star Trek series of the last year. Might be a little more than a year now because it was one channel that I just basically they show all 5 Star Treks in a row, and I went through. I think I did Next Gen, then original series. No, the original series, then Next Gen, then Enterprise. Because I didn't remember that one. Then I decided to go back and do Voyager and Deep Space Nine at the same time.
I did them all on Netflix again, last year.
It ended up mostly that way also because by the time I was looking into seeing a new Star Trek series, that's how close they were to the first episode, too. It was like, oh, there, I can do that one. Man, yeah, there's just some, like, very bad ones always. And, I think, yeah. We're getting a discussion of like Star Trek series now.
Yes.
None are awful, though. I don't know. Discoveries. Until I like watch more of it, the first season I was not a huge fan of. But again, like if you just compare it to like some of the first seasons for other Star Treks, they're pretty bad.
Even Next Gen started off a little rocky.
So I would want to wait until see like maybe they've got their full run and then go through their different seasons and see how they go. I think that's going to be my entire thing for Discovery.
Yeah, I mean, I heard the last season was actually pretty good.
So see?
I just think they need to stop going prequels.
They have to stop going J.J. Abrams.
I mean, the reboot wasn't bad. And if you want to do more stuff in the alternate universe, call it the alternate J.J. Abrams universe. And just deal with it instead of trying to rewrite everything. It's Prime. It's we promise this is Prime. No, it's not Prime.
You rewrote too much stuff and made it like really different.
Well, they're also doing it under an alternative license that they have to keep things a certain percentage different. So it's just like just own up to that. It's a different reality, and go with it. If that's what you're going to do with the shows. Just do that.
Well, it's
instead of trying
to
disguise it.
You don't have that disguising in Picard, at least as far as I've seen. So it's an interesting difference there.
I think they might have been. They're starting to learn their lesson on it.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like, okay, the fans aren't responding to this well.
Yeah.
But we probably should move on from Star Trek.
Yes, we do have at least one more topic to hit up on here. And that does not transition at all. Let me turn off the browser because I didn't have that set up. So this was a very interesting one to see existing. The USAopoly, the tabletop game publisher that we've talked about, is working with the creators of Onward to bring a real-life piece of it, The Quest of Yore, Barley's Edition. It's a role-playing experience inspired by the game scene in the movie. I don't even know the game scene in the movie, but I know, like, the movie, from what I know, it's supposed to be like a fantasy world that's reached modern age. That's the best way to describe it, you know. So it's like your typical fantasy world with all the crazy tropes in it, you know, and you've reached, you know, that's actually what it is, the modern age then. And like all the differences and changes that happen when you reach a modern society. I think like the joke of like the unicorns are like the raccoons, you know? Or no, it was Pegasi. It was Pegasi. They're like getting into your trash.
I hate when Pegasi get in my trash.
I saw one of the trailers, you know, so I can say that one. So, yeah. So they basically, like, the brothers that are on this adventure encounter all these obstacles and stuff, and during their adventures, that they learned from the Quest of Yours, which is one of the characters' favorite RPG. And that's where this entire thing comes from. The Questmaster unfolds a story narrative while players develop rich characters on their journey. I'm wondering how much of, like, an RPG out of a box this is, because that's what it looks like. It reminds me of the early, you know, like first edition boxes or something.
Yeah.
That they have. Yeah, because they say it's a role-playing game. It has an advanced player's guide, a quest tome, 180 power spell and item cards, 24 hex tokens, 4 conviction tokens, heartfire and grit tokens, enemy tokens, Questmaster screen, character sheets, 3 dice, 6 miniatures, and rules.
I'm thinking like one of the D&D or Pathfinder role-playing board games. Something similar to that.
I thought it was somewhere in between that and maybe like a beginner's box, somewhere in between there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's probably, that's what it probably is. It's somewhere between there. Mm-hmm. It looks interesting. I mean, I don't know really anything about the movie.
I knew a little bit about the movie. That's the thing, is like I've seen some trailers on it, and I've because it's one that was not high on my list to actually go physically out and see. I ended up watching a couple of reviews of it, not spoiler reviews, I will say, because I mean it looks like, because I think it's Pixar, right? Did this?
Yeah, Pixar.
Oh yeah, I can see it on the box now. I mean, Pixar, this is a good IP for them at this point in time. They don't have a lot. They haven't had a lot of good original IPs, and this looks like a really interesting one. The idea is a very interesting one, and like the little questing here, it's like gather your fellowship and embark on an epic quest across the lands of old. Rush in the aid of the satyrs of Clouddale and uncover a mystery that tests your adventures and strength and teamwork. So I think it is like somewhere in between, as you said, like one of the D&D board games and maybe like an old adventure box, because I feel like it's got a little bit of both of those in its nature, just from what they say, from everything they've got here. Like 24 hex tokens is not enough to build an actual board or something, but I think you're supposed to have like your board setup of adventures and like encounters and stuff. It's supposed to use power cards, item cards, and stuff. So it's got a little bit of the board game mechanics into your, like, role-playing mechanics, because you are having character sheets, and, like, you know, you have your advanced player's code, quest tomes, all things like that. So I definitely feel like it's a one-box role-playing game is something that I, you know, again, first edition D&D is what it reminds me of. And I'm interested to how much this would allow a dungeon master or game master to make an adventure on their own using this kind of setup. Would it allow them to? Would you be able to use the rules for it? Maybe. I'm curious as to how much it would. That's the big thing about it. Because $50 for like a starter box kind of thing, or for like a board game kind of thing, is not bad, but it's also like replayability too, is the question of it. A role-playing adventure you can only maybe do once, but if it is if it does have a very heavy RPG feel and it's got enough basic rules, even if they're very simple rules, maybe you could make more. Curious about it.
Yeah. It looks interesting.
Yeah, no. It was definitely something to like be like, wow, that was an interesting kind of like, it's a quick turnaround, which yes, we both agree is very quick for USA Monopoly. It always seems like, and it's a different turnaround.
Yeah. I definitely would be interested in checking it out.
I'm spelling that wrong. Yeah, it's definitely one that I would put on the list to go and check out. Now, that's gonna be it for the main news for this week. We didn't have a huge amount of stuff to really talk about here. You know, it's just with the virus going on. I guess not as many people are like delaying releases, changing releases, except for online. And it's a time period where you don't get a lot of huge releases. So, I mean, we did get a lot of topics anyway. So why don't we go into our regular part of the docket, which I should probably throw the docket up in the chat because I didn't do that to begin with. Docket! So normally is our deeper discussion, which I don't think we haven't had a chance to physically meet now because of, as of last week, we were on viral lockdown, and I don't think we're going to be like going out to people's places anytime soon, probably at this point.
Just to be on the safe side, but
yeah.
As I suggested last week and said we did some Civ, we could always do some tabletop or something.
I might be down for tabletop Civ. I ended up doing, with my normal other Civ group last night, we ended up doing some tabletop stuff. So that was fun.
I watched Frozen 2.
Ooh.
With my fiance.
Nice. So, do you have a Kickstarter for us today? I did not have time to look up something. I'm going to be completely honest.
I will give a shout out to something. I haven't got to check it out completely. Cool. But it looked interesting. It's called Multiverse. So they have 27 days to go. They are trying to raise $250,000. They've raised $63,528 so far. And they have over 1,036 backers. So kudos to them. It's an online app role-playing game.
Huh.
That you can basically make it for whatever story you want to do. They also are going to be offering like pre-made adventures and stuff too that you can do. It looks interesting. No manuals, no maths. You can point and click to move your character around. The DM builds what the world looks like. You can edit things in it. You can change the weather. So there's plenty of ideas that you could do in this, and it's good for a tablet, computer, phones.
Yeah.
So you can do it from anywhere, which is nice.
Yeah.
And the base thing is $27 to just get access to the app and everything. If you do the next level up for $39, you get Kickstarter exclusive content level 2, outfits, items, emotes, early access to multiverse. Oh, $47 is where you get a humble story module. So a pre-made adventure, basically. And it goes up from there. I mean, the tier points aren't bad. I mean, when you get up to the high-level ones, which have already been taken, there's no more of the ones above 500, it looks like.
All right, I'm just going to say this here. The little, like, characters that they say craft your characters that they have on this one.
Oh, they're sprites. They're
little sprites. They're the sprites. You know what they remind me of? They're like elemental. They remind me of something like you'd see like on Pokemon sprites. I'm sorry. For some reason, they they got like the.
I think they're very basic. I will say that, it's not a immersive.
They look like people that they were actually like adventurers that skinned Pokemon and are wearing their outfits in order to look sort of like them. That's kind of what they look like. I'm sorry. They look like people that are wearing Pokemon parts.
I mean, there's also normal people too.
Okay, there's still normal people too. That's fine. But for whatever reason, they have the sprites there look like the ones that they're showing off originally, with the craft your characters. They have an elemental feel of the normal looking one, the watery icy one, fire one, buggy grass looking one. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just saying, yes. It might not be the most sophisticated artwork. It is 8-bit.
Oh, I have nothing against that. I'm just creeped out by the entire, skinning a Pokemon alive idea. I can't unsee that now. I can't unsee it because I've seen that. One of them is Lofty
I think it's... Oh, God. I think it's an interesting idea.
Uh-huh. It's a very cool idea. Yeah.
I was led towards it because also with, the whole coronavirus lockdown right now, it's something that would be very useful.
Yes.
I mean, I could have made the bet. I did see someone made a coronavirus game, and I'm like, no, I am not going there.
Look, when I was playing Siege with Blaze the other day, and someone was like, COVID-19 was their character name, I'm like, how long have you had that? Not long for your username.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing that, as I was saying, there's a reason I don't stream Siege, but I love playing it. The humanity in Siege is awful. People are awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
I mean, it was a fight the coronavirus game, but still.
Yeah, even like Pandemic, I would not go with to name a plague after our current plague. I feel like that's just not proper at this point in time.
Yeah, too soon.
Wait till our plague is over, and then we can joke about our plague.
Yes.
But
that's what I got for Kickstarter. Like I said, I thought it was an interesting little tidbit there.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So our week in tabletop. All right, well, we did a number of interesting things this week. I think the big things were, of course, Children of Wrath, probably, because we're doing Grinding Gears this Sunday.
Oh, God, yes. With Children of Wrath, though, the public should be glad they can't see our Discord discussions.
God.
Or you would have been banned.
Uh-huh. Oh, no. Your Discord discussions were bad, and I'm glad I don't see them until after the show, because then I say stuff and do things, and you're, making comments and making it worse, and I get to see at the end, I'm like, oh my God, you're going on about things.
Well, it just happened to what you said actually played perfectly into our inside jokes, and I almost killed Mads in real life with laughter.
Yep.
You just could see her muted and convulsing with laughter on the screen.
Yeah, but we didn't have any games on Tuesday. We were down Jess. She was traveling, so there was no records or legacies. We just had Children of Wrath, in which they were in Vesuva, and where we left off, they were fighting their own doppelgangers. It went well. They got the shit beat out of them, but they managed to survive.
Yes.
And then they went into a basically maze. Like a
an
powerful maze
actual
spell.
spell maze.
Yep. Which it took a lot. Mm-hmm.
Oh God, no! Poor Carrie,
who got lost for half a day on her own. Yeah, over half a day because of the number of checks she had to make, and she did a long rest in there. It was half a day before she emerged again. After you guys struggled and then emerged.
Yes.
Because I took that into account how long it took you from when you separated to emerge.
We finally got out of there, made it to the center of the island.
Yep.
Which, me showing my shape-changing abilities that I can do, got us welcomed in, and an audience with the Queen.
And then she gave you some stuff, and not necessarily for free, because she's planning, she's like, I'll give you these things, and then, you could do this for me.
Which I'm unaware of, because mine made me go unconscious. because I walked into a doppelganger made of living metal out of myself, and then I passed out. Basically, she's unlocking memory in my head of my previous people that I made out of, and apparently it's not going to be all pretty, which I didn't think it would be.
Nope. There's a crying child in my background, so I might have to mute it. But
that's why I kept talking.
She fell off a bed.
So there's that. Mm-hmm. We found out there's more about Maxwell's tongue than we know about.
Yes. He unlocked only one of its many abilities, that now he can learn some tongue abilities. And there's where the jokes came from, tongue abilities.
Yes. So yeah, there was many behind the scenes jokes on that and his powerful tongue. But he can now mimic people's voices and cadence identically. Carrie took a bath in the living metal, and it got absorbed into her. And Wintress got a magical metal rope now attached to her hook, making it a magic attack.
Well, again, she would never change her weapon, is what it is. And so I'm like, I'll make it that it's magical, because that way it's an upgrade that will last for a long period of time. You know?
Oh, yeah. And then
Kazrin just got some of it. Which I told him, it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you tell me, if you were to integrate it into something, I will give bonuses to it, basically, what you're integrating it into.
Yeah. So we all got some cool stuff. I'm completely passed out.
Uh-huh. So gonna drag you home now.
Yes.
Unconscious.
And I've learned a little bit more about my nature. So that should be interesting for me, and what my randomness is going to be in the future is going to be a lot more random of what I wake up as now. Because apparently I'm probably getting a middle and last name. And for those who aren't aware, that each one of the letters in my name is for the first letter of a different person that I know about in my head. Right now, there's only 5 that I knew about. So, yeah, it's going to get a lot more crowded.
Very clouded.
Well, we also had our non-stream game on Monday, which was the Pathfinder 2.0 game that we've been doing.
We did continue with that. I can't deny that I kind of... It was exposition dump, though, is what mostly it was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was, but we did at least do some, because it's been like a month. So we did have that. You said you didn't have your Tuesday stuff?
Unfortunately, didn't have the Tuesday stuff this week. Just we were down something, and since they're both 3-player games, when we're down someone, we just can't do them. Unfortunately. No. Which hasn't been too much of a trouble, because it's been the slow upload of stuff to YouTube. Well, by slow I mean I'm trying to put out daily games, but I'm putting out 4 games. I'm sorry, 4 games, which I've reduced weekly uploads of Grinding Gears until I finish the other ones. So Grinding Gears is still way behind on uploads on YouTube, and all the rest of them are still behind, even though I'm catching up quite close. And a week off means I get a little closer to catching up, because I'm not always good at quite daily uploads, and I need daily uploads to really catch up.
And we have Grinding Gears this Sunday, which I am changing up some things. I've decided I was a little too map heavy.
I mean, it's good to reflect
map reliant.
It's good to reflect on your own abilities, because I did that a lot in Madness, and try to shift gears occasionally in Madness to fix it, and it did fix some things here and there. It's just, again, as when I ended the game, I said, we were hitting problems that I had established incredibly early on that were very hard to overcome. Right. By the second adventure, one of your teams should have known the Kalada's language every time by the second adventure. Period. Yeah. And that way there wouldn't have been a language. Now, granted, maybe only one of you would have known it. just for like, you know, almost like, you know, story-wise sake, that like that person ended up being one of the people that learned it. And the entire idea of being like maybe part of an adventurers guild, so that if someone dies or if something happens, a new team can be commissioned, you know, that they're paying attention to the quest. So like you have two people you report back to, like the adventurers guild, which is maybe more of like an informal thing, and then you can maybe go to the Duke occasionally. But it was a lot less connecting with the Duke. And I think a lot of the character changes and NPC stuff that had to occur because the character changes also didn't help, because it kind of deviated like weird points in the story.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, all of Tip's character changes. Up until, like, he had way too many character changes without character deaths. I understood, like, if it was like the natural progressions between adventures, it would have been great. But he had Orin, Red, your lizard folk, and all of them had heavy stories. Not bad stories, but heavy stories. All of them did. Like, Red was the only one that didn't, but Red was just a silly character.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm you know, taking the feedback, and I think I was worried, you know, about trying to make sure that you guys had something to look at, and also the audience had something to look at for reference, and not being as open with the story because of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's cutting the story
there is
in ways.
There is a visual medium to doing a RPG show online, but it's not the only medium to it. There is also like a heavy sound medium, and you use the maps when it will be confusing not to use a map, is basically what you do it. Like, you rely
I might
on
do
people
some like basic backgrounds just so I have something up there to look at, so it's not just a white block.
Well, you could do that. Like, the town was a very good one that I could have thrown up there, or something like that, you know? But again, like, that basic background would more be for us, because I'm not always throwing it up either. I usually throw it up because we got a very busy screen anyway.
True. But, you know, just to have something up there, it's nice, but I think I've just been going too heavy on it and need to focus more on the story. So it's not... So when characters do something that I'm not really expecting, I'm not just shutting them down going, no, you can't do that.
But yeah, I ended up playing some Mysterium yesterday, and then we did a game of Settlers, which I have to say, screw Will. He cut the map in half, quite literally, so I couldn't go anywhere. So at the end, like, yes, someone, like, Will didn't win, which is the only thing I'm glad about. But he literally built roads across the middle of the map so that no one could get across it, and I'm like, well, frick me.
Yeah.
You know... It screwed over two of us, and the other person didn't really affect the other person. Yeah. So...
That can happen.
Yeah. And then, even then, like, with his massive road, the other person got longest road by just building along the coastline on the one side. You just stretched up from, like, a little bit in the center where they originally were. Went down to the coastline and just went up the top of the side. And had like 12 roads in a row at the end, and I'm like, and then they got largest army, and that's how they won. Both of those. Because then you only need 6 points, and that's not difficult to get.
Nope.
So that was an interesting one. And the Mysterium games were fun. You know, we took some turns. We were apparently, I think we only won 1 of 3 Mysterium games, so we're bad at psychically guessing stuff.
Wow, 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 wow.
But I think that's been the big groups of tabletop this week. Yeah. We only had the 2 games, and then I did a little tabletop sim, and that was about it. And we did Civ last week, on Saturday, which was fun. But you know, there's definitely some interesting things to tweak with Civ. God. Speaking of that, I did do a game with that other group this week, which we hadn't done in like a few months. And it was going well, because it ended up being only 4 of us, and those are the only people on the map. So we're competing with each other. And one person's going for religious victory. Only one person. So now 2 of us declared war on them, which is another person. And like, and then the other one declared war on me, and tried to attack my one city. And I'm just like, I was ramping up military to fight the other person. Squish. And he's like, well, okay, look, how about we just have peace now? I tried, I blew my load. I'm like, fine.
God.
And now I'm going to go kill the religious infidels who are, hanging out in my borders and trying to spread some kind of stupid religion, and killed my religion already, because my religion was 3 minutes old and they came over and destroyed it. Yeah, they're spreading the religion of Moo Cow, and I had the religion of Steve the Scorpion.
So, do they want you to drink more milk?
I guess so. But we don't want cows here. We wanted Steve the Scorpion, and Steve the Scorpion is extinct, and we're sad.
Well, we want to baptize you in milk.
Exactly. That's why I have to keep purging the infidels as soon as they enter my border. I keep murdering her units every time they enter, and she keeps sending them over there. The good part about it does get rid of her religion, so it hasn't gone dominant. But I've got to leave units hanging around my borders just to keep them out. I'm just go away, go away, get out of here, shoo.
No, I want you to pray to my milk.
Yeah. So good times there.
It's an utterly great religion.
That Civ group, I never know if we're going to get back to a game because it depends on who's free, and there's only 4 of us that day, so we'll see.
Right.
But no, definitely a lot of... it was an interesting week, and if you checked out some of the other stuff that was going on this week, it was a pretty good week of content and stuff. So, I think we were talking about, Ask the Tabletop, if you got questions, Again, all the same places, Twitter, Discord, YouTube in the comments here if you're in the chat and have a question. It's really good. Great ways to reach us, definitely. Or the Yahoo email, which I haven't checked in a week, so I have to check it. I forgot to this week. Because, again, I have not a lot of time to plan and put together the show and get food and wake up. So
it happens.
Yeah, our PSSA for, I guess, staying safe. It's a time period with a lot of stuff going on. Tabletop Sim, great ways to play online with people. Roll20, great way of playing online with people. Definitely suggest checking out stuff like that with your normal group of characters or anybody else you can kind of find. And
Magic the Gathering Arena.
And Magic the Gathering Arena. There's a lot of great ways, especially because, if you want to play stuff online and have some things to do, there's a lot of great tabletop stuff online that you can find out there. And I definitely suggest focusing on that for a little while now, especially with the everything that's going on. A lot of stuff is closed, a lot of stuff isn't going on, and, there are things you can do for cheap and or free, basically, that you can have fun. Like Tabletop Sim, it does cost you some money. And it's not on sale right now, but it would be a great way of playing a lot of tabletop games. That's probably the most expensive thing I'm going to suggest. Roll20 and Arena are both free and have a lot of options for doing stuff there. Granted, finding group on Roll20, not always easy, but usually can find groups here and there. That's why I actually have a group finding area on my channel, even though no one has really used it a lot. But it was made for people that if they are looking around on my Discord for a group of people to play a game with, you can throw your stuff out there. So, and unfortunately, just I'm not in a good situation to run a community game, but I will eventually do one. This situation, I'm not gonna just dive into it just because unfortunate plague.
Right.
The pestilence has come down upon us all. Let's try to stay safe and healthy. So. Alright, folks, I think we're good to go and pop off now. You have yourself a great rest of your day, great rest of your weekend. Hopefully you'll join us for Grinding Gears at very least, and whatever games we're having next week. And stay safe and healthy. That's all we can say. So,
bye.
Till next week, bye.